Hello and welcome to the latest TMT Talks with me, Oisin Lunny, produced by the team at TMT Analysis. In this episode, we'll be discussing mobile app marketing. What exactly is it? How does it work? And has the need to do it increased as the world turned to all things mobile during the pandemic? And I'm delighted to be joined by the mighty Mick Rigby, the head honcho and founder of Yodel Mobile, a multi-award-winning mobile app marketing agency. Mick, a very big welcome to TMT Talks.
It's lovely to see you again. Thank you very much for the opportunity to have a chat. And I have to say, I can't ever remember ever being called the Mighty Mick Rigby. So I might get some T-shirts made up with that on it.
It's a keeper, my friend. It's a keeper. The hashtag Mighty Mick Rigby. I'm in. Let's start it trending. So, Mick, we actually met many moons ago in Brighton, and we caught up in various places. How are you keeping?
Yeah, I'm good actually. Great to be back in the office after lockdown. Lovely to be travelling up to London, and we got some of our first sort of offshore sessions. We're off to Berlin in a couple of months' time, a couple of weeks' time actually, and hopefully off to the States again. So yeah, lots to look forward to. In good spirits, in high health, and yeah, life's pretty good.
Oh, glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. And speaking of physical events, I think the last time we met was MWC a few years ago. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, Barcelona.
Yes.
We bumped into each other getting our passes at the airport before we got into Barcelona, I believe. And yeah, you invited me to one of your DJ sets that evening.
That's right. Fantastic. Oh, good times. I'm so happy real world events are back. I'm looking forward to them. I'm at one right now. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I hope to see you at one very soon. So let's kind of get back to Yodel Mobile and this whole area of specialist marketing agencies for apps. I think some people might be a bit surprised, or they might not be aware of the need for a specialist agency to market apps. Tell us why a company or an organization would need a specialist firm like yours.
Yeah, I mean that's a great question to kick off with. I think the app space. It's hugely complex. There's no doubt about it. The tech, we're now sort of the tech, I guess, in the app space is like a generation or two generations or even three generations greater than the tech behind what goes on in the web and the digital space. The complexity is absolutely huge. The opportunities are absolutely huge as well. But in order to be able to make the most of that, you really have to understand the challenges, I think, that are faced, that the app businesses are faced. So let's start with some basic numbers. There's 5 million apps across the Apple App Store as a starting point. I mean, that's a huge number of apps. Every single one, I guess, are out for the same kind of audiences. A large number of those apps have got quite a substantial amount of budget behind them to support the growth, the marketing. So getting noticed in the app space is firstly a real challenge. The organic discoverability is absolutely essential because the cost to advertise, as you'd expect, as it is in the digital environment, is relatively expensive as well. CPIs could be, cost per installs could be anything from £3, £3.50 up to £5, £6, £7 if you're using reputable solutions to derive those downloads. So if you're driving those downloads, you need to be able to retain those individuals, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit later on. But 90% of most apps or most users that go to apps have stopped using that app within the space of 4 to 6 weeks. So you could argue that 90% of the money you spent in acquiring those users is wasted. So these are some of the big challenges you face just in terms of discoverability. I think, again, if you're comparing it to sort of the digital environment, web space, if you're in the web environment, you click on a banner or you do a search, it takes you through to the website. Easy as that. It's a simple journey. In the app space, you click on a banner or you do a search and it takes you through to the App Store listing. Now, App Store listing might have 2 or 3 stars. It might not really explain what the app is about. The visuals might be poor. So you've got a big blocker there. But really importantly, it's an extra step that individual has to take before they've actually experienced your offering. You click on get, and then what that does is actually downloads the app to your device. As a consumer, you still haven't opened that. So suddenly you've got another 3 steps beyond where you would be in the digital space. And every single one of those steps gives the consumer, the user, your potential audience, the opportunity to fall out of that space, even before they've opened up the app itself. And when they do open the app, it's a small screen. There's very little information there. So do they get what it is? So even at that stage, and all we're doing here is talking about the start of the journey. If you go through that stage, there are so many points that you can actually fall out of that process before you've even experienced the app. And at that point, we haven't even talked about what goes on within the app. So in order to be successful in app marketing, you need to do something called growth marketing and really understand the product, because the product will have a big impact on usability, discoverability, retention. You have to understand the commercial aspect as well, because you're getting consumers are used to spending relatively small amounts in the app space. If the app is providing a service, obviously it's different if it's e-commerce or they're selling a holiday, but the commercial aspect can be quite small. So you have to understand how that has an impact on user acquisition and what the impact is for the finances. And then the third piece of that is obviously marketing itself. So any good app marketer has to understand all of those three aspects. I'll shut up now because I could carry on talking for a while, but to answer your question, you do need a specialist because the marketplace is incredibly complex.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's like, that could be a series of TMT talks. You've just spoken about kind of managing the customer marketing and relationship across the entire life cycle. It's not just acquisition. It's just like getting me to click and go there. Job done. It's so much more complex and sophisticated. So to give our listeners, our viewers, a bit of a chance to understand the kind of companies that you're working with and the kind of situations you're helping with, can you drop any names about the kind of companies who you're actually supporting?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we're one of probably the oldest established mobile marketing stroke app marketing businesses out there, and we've been around since 2007. So as a consequence of that, we've pretty much worked we have worked globally. We worked on apps that were tiny at the time that are now huge global businesses. We've worked on startups through to established brand names that have been around for years and years and years. NBC Universal being one of the big businesses that we've worked with for many years. Daimler Chrysler as an example. We've just started working with the guys over at B&Q on their app, which is really interesting because you're seeing established brick and mortar businesses that have done really well in the digital space that are now coming out of lockdown, looking at the app space and going, do you know what? We really need to do a lot better in the app environment because there are a lot of there's a lot of opportunity, but also a lot of the consumers that they would traditionally get in the digital space are now moving into the app space. We've worked with travel apps, Trivago, for instance, fitness apps, Gymshark. So if you're 25, you'll know Gymshark as the fitness apparel contender to the Nike and the Adidas thrones. So yeah, lots of different apps all over the place.
Wow, fantastic. That sounds like another discussion that can continue a bit longer, but those are some great highlights. Thank you, Mick. And presumably, you've seen, like everyone else, a massive growth and interest in the past year. The whole world seems to have gone to their mobile devices to do stuff, everything from shopping to banking to engaging with others. So You mentioned earlier about this idea of ongoing engagement being something that you help your clients with. It's not just about the top of the funnel, click and forget it. Once somebody's installed an app, it's important for them to keep using it, for them to use it in the first place. The apps have to stay relevant. What are some of the techniques that you offer to your clients about helping to ensure that that app engagement actually continues to bring value to the user and to the company who's offering the app?
Do you know what? I think you've hit the bullseye there with that question. It is probably one of the most, if not the most important aspect of app marketing and app success. Retaining users is part and parcel of, I think the lifeblood of any app that is working. And that element of stickiness is key. I think one of the simplest techniques that we do preach is we call flipping the funnel. And what, may you ask, is flipping the funnel? So traditionally with a marketing funnel, you start with filling the top of the funnel by advertising, bringing them into that sales process right through at the bottom to make that purchase. If you flip the funnel and focus just below the purchase element of that funnel, you're talking about retention and CRM. So any app business that is successful focuses on that element more than anything else. Because if you can retain those users, you build that relationship with the individuals, you have a business, and you're constantly able to re-engage them, bring them back into the app to make purchases or to show them videos, whatever it is that app is particularly doing. Because what you don't want to be doing is spending huge amounts of money bringing them to the top of the funnel and then losing them. As I said earlier, about 90% will fall out after six weeks or so. So retention is key. So building in a proper CRM program into your app, utilizing, I don't know, like a Micks panel or a Lean Plum, something like that allows you firstly to understand what people are doing, getting the data to see where they're spending time or what's interesting users of the app, and then being able to bring them back in through push notifications, through CRM, through in-app messaging, and building out that relationship there. I mean, that's probably one of the most core ways of doing it. There's lots of other techniques as well, but certainly bringing them back into the app using the tools that are available for you in the app ecosystem would be something I'd wholeheartedly recommend.
Absolutely. And it sounds like a much more sustainable business than just kind of throwing money at the wall of getting people to click to install. If you don't have that follow-up plan and that retention, automated and marketing plan in place, it does sound like you're totally missing the point of getting people to install apps, to be honest. But coming back to the big picture now, the COVID pandemic seems to have really sealed the importance of mobile as a channel of communications. Amazing technologies like A2P SMS has gone through the roof, and everything from track and trace to e-commerce is massively boosting the number of SMSs being sent around the world. Do you think this level of mobile engagement is here to stay after the pandemic?
Oh, without a doubt. I think what's been one of the things that I've really sort of enjoyed seeing come back over the last sort of 18 months is some of that, and forgive me, I don't mean it, but the simple tech. So it's the tech that works. I think we as marketeers, as developers, as engineers in the space, you're always looking to be clever, to do something better than other people, to take activities and try and improve them. Now, I think that's really commendable, but sometimes you're just getting too complex. We're talking to consumers that are time poor, that have expectations that need to be acted upon quite swiftly. Text, QR, SMS, these are tried and tested solutions that have, been improved on, but the principles are very similar to where they were 15, 16, 20 years ago. And to see them coming back because they work, that has been really sort of encouraging. I'm a great believer in, if you can do it without having to get complex, do it, because that's going to necessarily be the far easier way of doing things.
Absolutely. Convenience is the killer app in almost every situation, I'd say. And I'm presuming that, for every secure and reputable app, there must be fraudsters too who are now seeing this huge growth in all things mobile and are taking advantage of it. Do you think that fraud, from your insider perspective, do you think that fraud is a big issue, a problem for the app industry?
I think yes, like any digital industry, any business that runs on data and connectivity, fraud is an issue. Looking at a few examples, maybe a couple. Advertising, ad fraud is a big issue in the app space. And if you're moving outside of the firewall protected solutions like Facebook or Google, and you're starting to get into some of those standalone networks, there is a risk of bot fraud, of double clicking fraud, which in effect, if you're paying for clicks, or paying for downloads, could have a massive impact on the effectiveness of the budgets that you're spending in terms of acquiring users. It's a big worry, making sure that you've got a reputable MMP, so an attribution tool like an AppsFlower or an Adjust or a Kachava, one of those kind of tools that sit within the app to actually validate that click led to a legitimate download. That's one of those fail-safe ways of ensuring that you're spending the right kind of money.
And coming back to the helicopter view again, have you seen the app industry combating the rise in fraud, and what measures have you seen, if any?
Yeah, there's a lot more. So a lot of those tools that I talked about now, excuse me, have fraud fraud detection elements in them. There are a number of businesses that have actually set up to evaluate and to monitor independently as well. And I think it's really encouraging because, it was one of those things that worried the hell out of me. I mean, we spend an awful lot of money for our clients on advertising, and we do everything and did everything we possibly could to ensure that it was all legitimate. So having third-party tools that you can overlay onto that to ensure that fraud is minimized is really important. Checking individuals, I think, making sure that the people that have downloaded your app are real individuals, making sure that they are not under 18 if it's a gaming or gambling app. These are really important. So verification, checking and making sure that it's as foolproof as possible is really important.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, all of those technologies about KYC, verification, etc., they're foundational for the sustainability of the app ecosystem. If you've got bad actors, people not being verified, etc., it really kind of is a big issue for the entire industry. I completely agree. And kind of changing the subject a little bit now, but we're not going too far away from apps. Mick, do you have like a favorite app right now? Is there anything you'd like to share?
Yes, yeah, definitely. And awesome. I think now that the world is starting to open up again. I know a lot of countries still aren't, but certainly where we are in the UK, we're getting out and about. So, I mean, one of my favorite apps of all time is an app called City Mapper, which allows me to get from A to B wherever I am, whether that's London, Berlin, or Chicago. But like a local, understanding what all the routes are that are available to you, where you should get on the tube, where you should get off. It's just a godsend. So City Map is a massive tick for me. And also in the UK train line, to buy my tickets, the cheapest way of getting a train ticket now. And I no longer buy tickets at the station. It's all on my phone. Hallelujah for mobile and app technology. So yeah, they're definitely the two apps I love at the moment. Ask me again in a month's time and it might be something different, but that's where I see it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I commuted for many years from beautiful Brighton up to London to various locations. And I remember the stress of the queue to renew your season ticket. Oh my goodness. And it was always like the first of the month or whenever. So yeah, that moving to an app is just music to my ears. I totally agree. And tell us a bit about what you got up to during the lockdown. I mean, how was it for you? Did you take up any new hobbies or anything like that?
Oh, fine red wine.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, because I couldn't spend money on anything else. Yeah, I did start developing quite a serious red wine habit. Um,
Good man.
but other than that, on the flip side of that, looking after myself, so doing a lot more
Very good.
mindfulness, using apps for that, a lot of meditation, and a lot of going for runs and cycling and spending time. So yeah, balancing the challenges of being in a small room, working with uptake, keeping up with my health. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
I'm a
that sounds
better
like a
person for it as well.
Ah, very good, very good. That's a balance. It's very close to my own kind of outlook on the world. I do like a glass of vermouth and red wine, quite frequently. But I do try and meditate and, practice mindfulness. And I think the two things, I mean, I hope
Mm.
anyway, they seem to balance each other out and, could contribute to overall happiness. So, yeah, 100% agree on that approach. I like it. I'm sure there's a book in there somewhere like The Zen of Wine or something like this. But anyway, for another conversation for another time. And
We should
on
write it
TMT Talk.
together. Write it
Okay,
together.
deal. Let's do it. The Zen of red wine. The Zen of wine. What's not to like? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, let's continue that. Your people speak to my people. Right. And speaking
Sounds
of
good.
books, awesome. Speaking of books, we do like to get a kind of glimpse into the cultural lives of our guests here on TMT Talks. Have you been watching or reading anything, any cultural things to mention that you can share with our viewers?
Oh gosh, in terms of watching, I don't think it's particularly cultural, but yeah, I've been trying to catch up on a lot of comedies. Giving me that.
Nice.
Really into Ted Lasso. We started watching it last week. I don't know if you've
Ah,
seen it yet on
it's on my
Disney
watch
Plus,
list.
but great. Yeah, fantastic.
Fantastic.
Not Disney, it's on Apple, isn't it? Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's
yes,
that's
Apple
really
TV.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reading, I love, I'm a bit of an amateur historian, so I love a lot of, the fictional history books. But I've actually gone one step further. I'm actually at the moment, I'm reading a couple of modern versions of Cicero's books. So Cicero, for anyone who doesn't know, was a Roman senator around the time of Caesar, when it went through the two triumvirates and got a bit crazy at the time. But he was quite a level head and bit of a philosopher. But he was also an excellent orator. Orator, yeah. So he was good at speaking, put it that way. So I'm reading a couple of his books at the moment. Thankfully, brought up to modern times rather than reading it in ancient Latin. But yeah, I suppose that is pretty cultural, but that's quite enjoyable at the moment.
Wow, I think you've just put some money in the TMT Talks Culture Bank. Thank you very much for that. That's a very good balance. Nice one. Now, before I come to your last question, Mick, I just want to give a quick shout out to some useful bits and pieces that the folks at home might want to know about and check out. So TMT Analysis does have a wide range of resources available on its website about how mobile number intelligence can be used to help companies globally do everything from verifying a real person behind a mobile number to preventing fraud while onboarding. Take a look at their website, tmtanalysis.com, which includes a dedicated use cases page, which is well worth a look. Okay, Mick, I have the last question for you. It's a very important question. We'd like to ask all of our VIP guests here on TMT Talks to choose a track for our Spotify playlist. So my question is, what's your track?
Oh, what? Oh, where to start? Yeah, we were talking about lockdown. I mean, and Hobbies. I should have said as well. I,
Yeah.
I started getting into a lot of old vinyl when I
Oh, mate,
was in lockdown. I got the old record player out,
superb.
and I've carried that on. So my most recent purchase was a new album brought by the Specials. The classic ska band of yesteryear, and it's an
Yeah.
album called Protest Songs. And
Yes.
there's a fantastic track on there, um, called Everybody Knows, and I believe it was originally done by Leonard Cohen. So if for your playlist, I would definitely recommend Everybody Knows by the Specials.
Absolutely superb. Vinyl, the Specials, tick, tick, tick. Mick Rigby, you're very much a man
Red
after my
wine.
own heart. Red wine, yes. It's like jackpot, you know, the 3 sevens. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. That is it for our latest TMT Talks with me, Oisín Lunny. Many thanks to the mighty Mick Rigby from Yodel Mobile and to you for listening and watching. Don't forget, you can carry on the discussions via the hashtag TMT Talks, or you can drop me an email at oisín@tmtanalysis.com, or just post a comment on the TMT Analysis YouTube channel. You can also carry on the party with the Specials, thanks to Mick, via the special TMT Analysis mixtape on Spotify. Be sure to tune in, and I'll see you next time.